Well, good evening, everybody. It's 6 o'clock, and so I'd like to call the County Commissioners regular meeting for April 19th, 2022 to order. Commissioner Rivera. Here. Commissioner Richardson. Here. Commissioner Goss are also here. Would you join me with the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And item 3, public hearing. We don't have anything scheduled. Item 4, comments from the public. Would anybody in the room like to make a comment from the public? We'll go here in the room first, and then we'll go online. Okay, nobody's jumping up. How about online? If you just raise your hand or unmute yourself, I'd be more than happy to recognize you and give you the floor. All right, last call for in-person and online. Commissioners, I entertain a motion to close the public comment, please.
I move that we close the public comment.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 5, disclosures. Commissioner Rivera.
I have none.
Commissioner Richardson. I have none. And I have none also. Item 6, considerations of changes on the agenda. Haley, please.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
I ask that we remove item 21 after some conversations that we had at the special meeting on Friday. I don't see a reason to set another special meeting.
Okay, good. Jennifer.
Evening. I would request that for item number 11, that we remove the resolution itself after conversation with Bob Southard, the city attorney, and instead discuss setting a work session between the city of Laramie, Rock River, and this Board of Commissioners to discuss putting a ballot proposition forward to have that 5th penny tax be permanent, as opposed to, because the problem came is that I misinterpreted the statute when we initially talked about it. It automatically continues by ballot every 4 years without us having to do anything once it was approved the first time. It can go on the ballot with the vote of the commissioners and one municipality to make it permanent so that the electors get to decide if it's going to be a permanent tax, or it can go on the ballot for 4 years by resolution with your agreement and agreement of both municipalities. So previously we had not talked about making it permanent on the ballot, and after speaking with Bob Southard, there's some discussion among council as to whether that would be a good idea or not, and they would like to have a work session to discuss it.
And there was some discussion with that with the other work session that we had.
There was.
Okay. All right. Any other changes, Jack? Kayla? Item 7, approval of the consent agenda. Commissioners, if you'd like to pull something out, or if you just like to move that. Consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. That moves us on to the second page. Item 8, present for approval, final acceptance of the building access control project to direct the clerk to advertise for final payment to Long Building Technologies, Inc. The balance due on the 41st day following the first advertising. Final cost of the contract is $275,689. Jake, good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. So this is to accept the final completion of the building access control project that we changed the locks and all the security access with the cards. And everything has been completed except one item that is in the courtroom, and Adam has received all the parts and pieces for that. It hasn't been installed because we couldn't get agreement on the time to do it, but everything else has been completed.
Good. Commissioners, any questions? Entertain a motion for item 8.
I move that we approve final acceptance of the building access control project and direct clerk to advertise for final payment to Long on building technology.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing that all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thanks, Jake. Item 9, proclaim April as Child Abuse Awareness and Prevention Month. Does anyone want to have any presentations or just read the resolution? Okay, so the resolution is County Commissioners Proclamation, Child Abuse Awareness and Prevention Month. Whereas children are our future, no child should suffer abuse and neglect. And whereas victims of child abuse and neglect are known to be at higher risk for experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, low academic achievement, drug use, juvenile delinquency, teenage pregnancy, and adult criminality, every child is precious and deserves to grow up in a healthy, safe, nurturing environment free from harmful effects of abuse and neglect. And whereas an estimated 1,077 children in Wyoming are victims of abuse and neglect each year, and whereas effective child abuse intervention and community prevention programs succeed because of partnerships created among community members, social services and law enforcement agencies, schools, churches, businesses, and civic organizations. And whereas each April, Child Advocacy Centers of Wyoming, the Children's Trust Fund Board, Prevention Child Abuse Wyoming, Wyoming Citizen Review Panel, the Wyoming Department of Family Services, the Wyoming Office of Attorney General, Division of Victim Services, the Wyoming GAL Program, the County of Albany, Wyoming, and other partners joined together in an effort to prevent abuse and neglect through outreach, education, and intervention. Now, therefore, I, Pete Gosar, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the chairperson of the Board of County Commissioners of the County of Albany, Wyoming, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2022 as Child Abuse Awareness and Prevention Month. Commissioners, anything? You need to go on that proclamation. Yes, I'd entertain a motion for that proclamation, please.
I move that we accept this proclamation declaring April as Child Abuse Awareness and Prevention.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, all those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. 1,077 is a sobering number each year in Wyoming. All right, item 10, update from update from Albany County grants on the prevention program. Bailey Quick and Tracy. Tracy, the floor is yours. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, commissioners. So I just wanted to give you guys a brief update. It's been a while since I've been. I came back in December to help the coalition build capacity again and get ready for this grant application. And since then, we've really increased the membership of the coalition. I think the last meeting we had 30, something like that. So it's just nice to see people getting involved again. Those meetings consist of us really trying to dig into what we want to do, how we want to do things a little bit differently. We've had a lot of discussions about the workforce and what that looks like. How do we get somebody in here that really wants to do the work? I think some of it is we've been always looking for that master's level social worker, mental health person. And the last few meetings, we've really talked more along the lines of what we need is somebody that wants to come in and be a community organizer. We can teach people prevention science. We can teach them all the work when it comes to prevention and how to work around the science and those things, the risk and protective factors of a community. But they have to have that skill of wanting to organize a community and work with the community. And so I think we've really had that discussion. And trying to bring somebody in right now just didn't make a lot of sense. We're just really trying to get down to the numbers and get moving forward. I think that's the biggest piece is we have an application due May 2nd. And trying to do that in about 2.5 months is what the state really gave us, I think. And things were a little bit of a mess, not gonna lie, but we're getting there. I think we all have the COVID asterisk, so we're getting there. The only hiccup I think we have right now is everybody's kind of looking for data. And with COVID, we've got some difficulties looking at numbers, but some of the things we want to do is really take the time working with United Way to get our data together over the next 2 years and really dig into some of the things that are going on in our community. I've done this for 20 years, most of it here in Albany County, and things have changed, but things haven't. So maybe it's time to do things a little bit differently, and just, so we're really hoping to do something different and do something on a bigger scale, in the sense that we're including the whole community and really making sure that we're touching all pieces of the population, and not just, you know, law enforcement or, you know, some of the things that we've traditionally done over the last few years. So we really want to do big picture. And some of those programs look like getting into the schools. There's a program called Sources of Strength, which I did find out today is happening in the high school and the middle school. They've really struggled during COVID. So if we can kind of get that going. So really it's a culture change within our schools. And that leads to good prevention when it comes to underage drinking, underage alcohol and drug use of any sort, as well as suicide prevention. It's an evidence-based strategy to help our kids function better in society, I guess, for lack of a better word. So that's some of our big strategies that we're looking at. We talked about the program Bridges Out of Poverty. And really, I know there's a lot of people in Albany County looking at housing issues and poverty issues. And so how can we all work together on that? It feels like we're a little siloed right now. And I think some of that is COVID. I think we all kind of sat in our pockets, did our work over the last 2 years. And so I'm really hoping that over the next couple of years, we can see Albany County thrive and work together, and really using each other and collaborating and coordinating, and so that those efforts are bigger and touching the whole community. So do you guys have any questions about prevention in general and kind of where we're headed? Or?
I don't have any, because I've been going to these meetings.
Richardson?
Well, in all my time as a commissioner, I've never understood, you know, prevention is different than treatment, right?
Absolutely.
But I've never been able to quite understand what the measurable deliverable is. You get all the people at the coalition, and it's, you know, everybody's like a professional meeting attender, but I don't know if there's a takeaway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In some silos, there are law enforcement, you know, has a distinct thing that they do.
Yeah.
But it's, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it
You've
is.
been doing this enough.
Yeah, it's a tough, I think the state of Wyoming in general has really struggled with that in the last few years. What are we measuring? What are we looking for? A lot of it really is our prevention needs assessment. What are our 6th, 8th, 10th, and 12th graders? We have really good data around that. So that's some of our most tangible, but really, you know, reducing underage MIPs, because we know less kids are drinking, less kids are getting caught, but yes, less kids are drinking. You know, impaired driving, getting impaired drivers off the road. Those things are tangible. It is the bigger picture. I mean, how socially, emotionally well are our children? It's hard to measure, but do they have good test scores? You know, are they the prevention?
Well, and adults too.
Well, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's hard measures. It's hard to measure.
It seems like there's enough limitations on how the funds can be used that,
There is.
you know, you just run into walls all the time.
Yeah, it does. Bailey and I were just talking.
Like
about
you
it.
could measure and assess forever. But if you aren't allowed to bring some resource to bear to make it different, then it's kind of an academic exercise. Does WISAC still collect?
Well, that's
You know, how is
State of
that
Wyoming-
going?
State of Wyoming made the decision to not have WISAC as the evaluator. We have an evaluator out of Colorado that doesn't know the culture of Wyoming. And so in general, there's a lot of struggles with prevention. That's one of them. WISAC, we plan to use WISAC. We always have in this community, because they know the culture, they understand our community, they understand Wyoming. But that is one of the things.
The rest of the state isn't using WISAC?
Nope, they didn't get the bid. They gave the money to a firm out of Colorado. So, yeah. So again, you're right. It feels like we might be getting somewhere at some point, and then something like that changes, or because the evaluation is very different than what WISAC was providing to us. You know, the YSAC does still do the prevention needs assessment, so that is consistent. And we have been doing the prevention needs assessment since 2001. So we do have good trend data. They're very involved in that. Eric Kanan and Rodney Womby still do that. They travel the state. But as for actually evaluating what we're doing in the state of Wyoming when it comes to prevention, it's been given to another firm. And right now, all of us are kind of scratching our heads. We're not really sure what they're evaluating. So it's a little frustrating. I think right now the best evaluation is how many people are we training in suicide prevention. We have a couple of trainings. Right now there's a training going on here in Albany County. It's a 2-day applied suicide intervention skills training. It's a 2-day very intense suicide prevention training, and we have 15 attendees. Big Brothers, Big Sisters, UWPD, University of Wyoming. Those are some of the people attending. So some of our measures are truly that. How many people are we training? How many people understand the science behind prevention, behind suicide prevention? But you're right, it's hard to grasp, it's hard to understand. And frankly, we went from programming in 20 years ago where we could really capture those numbers. We were doing programming within school. We were doing parenting classes. We were doing more individualized. So we were reaching maybe less people than the large population, but we could measure what was happening.
And it was maybe
post-test.
more targeted to certain
Yes.
demographics that have these issues, right?
Absolutely. You know, but then we went big environmental strategies, which we made a lot of changes. So for instance, here in Albany County, all of our alcohol ordinances were put under one. We've looked at our ordinances different times throughout the last 20 years. We have some of the toughest alcohol policies and DUI policies in the state, things like that. So that's environmental change where we're trying to affect the entire population, but it's harder to measure. You know, it's like, okay, what are we really doing? I truly think we need to find that balance. We still need that programming. We still need to reach some of that more
Would we
individualized.
be allowed to do those things?
There is, so
Because there's that discussion,
Yep.
right?
yeah. So one of the things that we've been talking a lot about, it's called Bridges Out of Poverty. It's one of the curriculum that's going really well in Carbon County, where I'm working also. It's helping families get out of poverty. It's a 12-week course and they go through it. And then one person they get to apply to help instruct. So and then the next class, somebody else helps instruct. And so they help them find jobs. They teach them to cook. They teach them how to shop affordably. In Carbon County, they do it at Head Start. So there's daycare. So they're doing things like that. And that's sort of new. Just the last grant cycle, the Department of Health is seeing the value in that again and really pushing more programming and finding that balance. So
Right, so you understand what I'm asking.
Mhm.
It's only an idea unless we're allowed to do it by,
Yeah.
you know, in the funding, you know,
yes.
the rules. And
Yeah,
so
so they are getting back to finding a balance between the two. They still want some of those environmental strategies, especially around tobacco, but they'll approve Bridges Out of Poverty. Sources of Strength is one of those within the schools. It's a little more individualized, but it's still taking care of the school age population. So we're getting back there.
Well, at some point it went so far the one direction that it was like billboards, public service
Yes.
announcements and bumper stickers. And there
Yep.
was an analytics, right?
Yes.
You know, so there, you weren't really bringing anything to bear.
Yeah.
On,
And if I
Yeah.
might, Heber, that's why it's so important to get all these various entities back into the same room discussing things so that they're aware of what other agencies are doing, that they're aware that this money exists. Bailey's always at these meetings to be able to say, well, you can't really do that, but we could maybe tweak it this way. And Tracy knows so many of these different programs. And so it's nice to have, you know, everybody we don't have consistent from the hospital or the school district, but almost every other area is covered. And they're coming to the table, telling us what they're doing, and people are wanting to work together and do some networking. And it's really good to see because it has been lacking for some time.
yeah, to coordinate their efforts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And what's interesting about that is that in my experience with this, there's never been a lack of desire or understanding or willingness or any of that. It's But it's like, maybe that organization, COPSA, could exist without the prevention money, because they're all trying to do that, because the prevention money doesn't bring enough to bear. Like, I don't know, do you print like pens and hand them out with a suicide hotline number on them, or, it's pretty obnoxious, the restrictions,
Absolutely.
I found it to be very frustrating.
Yes. And I've worked with, in the last several years, my role was working with every coalition across the state. And my recommendation to many of those coalitions is diversify your funding, because there are a lot of restrictions. And, with poverty, the last cycle truly was the first time they let an agency do a poverty-driven program. And we're right up there with Carbon County. And so why have we not been, and so I tell coalitions, if you really want to dig into the problems in your community, you should diversify your funding. You should apply for other grants. You should become your own 501c3, just for those pockets of money that you want to do something different, because there is a lot of restrictions. And I've said it a million times, not that I don't believe in it, but we've been doing the same stuff for 20 years. And it is frustrating. I've been doing it for a long time, and I feel like I'm chasing my tail sometimes. And so I would love to see a lot of difference, but today, as Bailey and I go through the numbers, I'm like, here we are. We have to do 20% in this area and 20% in this area, and we can do this. And, it's those restrictions. We have these fabulous meetings, but there's always going to be those funding restrictions. And so as a community, we have to do the best we can. We are talking about looking at some community block grants for a couple of projects that's a little less restrictive, because as you know, Wyoming has a bunch of COVID money. So some of those things, but it's a frustrating process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, but it's a lot of communicating so that we're not just repeating services and programs and all from one entity to the next.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the beauty of a coalition. I mean, truly, working together and coordinating and collaborating, putting your efforts together. The mental health board, I sat in on a meeting and they were struggling to figure out how they were going to get all this training done. And I said, wait, do you guys not know about COPSA? Because we have a whole lot of money for mental health first aid and suicide prevention trainings in general. And they said, oh, you do. So here we are. They're going to get 4 trainings done for us before the end of June. Nobody had coordinated that. Nobody had put all those pieces together. And so it really is just that organization.
That is what a prevention coordinator does.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Tracy, thank you for being willing to step in when it was fairly dicey, and so thank you for that. Thank you for working with United Way. I think it's a great step. At this point, the hospital won't be there more consistently, so I'll see what I can do to get that happening more. My question to you is, we are experiencing change in the place that I work, and that some of the barriers are going to people, so bringing the healthcare, the mental health to their home, right? Because whatever it might be, you might not be able to imagine the reason they come to your clinic. And so can you guys with this money be able to figure out where there are pockets of places that have a high percentage of people who could use this type of, and then can you take community health workers or community prevention workers and go to that area and, make sure that that is not an obstacle, so that people can't come to you, you go to them. Is that something that's, can you collate the data, first of all? Is that problematic, knowing where people come, right, through the Title 25 or through the judicial system? And then can you go to that place in Laramie or Albany County?
I think that's a little more direct service, but I do think where prevention would be very valuable in this is that we could put together the data, like you said. We could come up with a formula to figure out those pockets. And then the thing is, we're all really connected. And so today alone in the assist training, there's a woman from the university that's working with all of the libraries in Wyoming to create telehealth. and get telehealth in the library. So, but they want to train all of their staff in suicide prevention first. That was a great connection today. So we're all going to do that. We're connecting here in Albany County. We're going to get everybody QPR trained, the higher staff, we're going to do assist. That happened pretty quickly. I mean, you have this, I have this. And so I think, and one of the big conversations at the last meeting was that data. How do we drill down and really figure out what we need? And then maybe we don't have the money, but that is part of the coordination and the organization part of this role is, okay, but rural health has a bunch of money. So how do we tap into that? Is there something we could specifically apply for CPG money, community block grant money? So I do think the data piece, because what we want to know is how do we prevent that? But if we don't know what we don't know, we'll never get there. And so United Way is very much involved, wants to do the same thing. And so Evelyn from United Way and I talked at the end of the meeting and said, why don't we do a data project together? And so I think that's exactly where we're headed when it comes to bringing services to people. That is much more direct services. Not that I don't agree. Prevention is, if we had good healthcare and good mental health, that prevents a lot of the other things. State of Wyoming's not there yet, but I think.
So are you saying that some of the prevention money, construed a certain way, could be used to do that sort of data gathering and assessment? It just can't be used to provide services.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because to me, I think the restrictions are such, or people's understanding of what that money is for, it's hard to spend it, right? So you have money and you don't know how to spend it because maybe you don't really know what it's for. And then but then we have to go find money behind that to actually do the work, because prevention money can't be used to provide services.
Yeah.
Tracy, can you speak to the fact of what we've been discussing at Town Gown as far as maybe a part-time person coming out of UW who would be somewhat capable of doing this kind of thing and getting out into the community and not necessarily providing service, but getting this kind of data?
Yeah. So another project that we've looked at for a really long time, actually, about 7 years ago, we were working with CSU, CU, and UNC on town gown issues and really looking at the effect the town has on the gown and vice versa. And there's a ton of people at UW that support the services, support the students under certain services, residence life. But when it comes to the community, how are we connecting the community to the university and these students and helping our students be better neighbors and be better? So both ways. We need services that go both ways, and we need to be doing more together. It's always been a struggle. 20 years in this community, and it's sometimes like pulling teeth to get UW on board with certain things, or they have money that they don't want to do this, but we're seeing a movement of them wanting to do more of that. They have a mental health first aid grant as well, and it's for the community and the university. Rarely their grants will have that language in it. So I do think we would love to see this. We're working with CSU, they're kind of mentoring us. I think a block grant would be what we would go for that, because I think UW right now doesn't want to commit to the funds until they know exactly if it works. That's fair. But I don't think the county should pony up all the money, because then it makes it easy to not come back around and then, have it be a mutual partnership. So if we do a block grant and at the end of 5 years, we've all had some agreements. We could do just a lot of different things and just look at prevention differently. They do have a lot of resources that we could take advantage of also. So that's another project we'd really like to get more involved in, and not just university, but WyoTech as well. These students come from all over, and then we send them out into the world. And then, if nobody in Wyoming or in Laramie likes these kids in our community, we're teaching them that, to be a bad neighbor and, things like that. We've also talked about educating our trustees more, because kids are coming from their communities to the university. And so what do they know about underage use and the things that go on in Laramie? And so how do we prepare communities to send their youth here as well? So that's another piece of it, is we get everybody's problem here at, in August, and then we get to deal with it. And so how can we do some stuff before that? How do we prevent some of those behaviors? So that's a project we've actually worked on for a long time, and then COVID kind of happens, and so it just kind of went away. And last fall, before I was involved with the coalition again, Chief Stalder called me and asked me if I would help him get that going again, just to start the conversation. And from there, we just kind of rolled with what's happening in Albany County. How can we all kind of get back to the table? And so it's an initiative I think everybody really believes in. And we've got other schools that are willing to mentor us. And CSU has an amazing program, and they have really great services for their students out in the community, as well as the community is really connected to students. And it took a long time. It took a while to get there and make those changes, but there's a lot we can do with it. And so that's just, again, that big picture, but yet something different. Let's do something different to try to make a difference.
Well, right. So if you're an RA and you're sort of in the residence life and dining umbrella, and they don't participate in COPSA, they could come up against situations that, so I think that the hospital and law enforcement are the things that everyone can think of without knowing anything, right?
Yeah.
But maybe you don't want to go that far. Maybe there's other resources that you could offer before we're calling the cops or you're going to the hospital. Right?
Absolutely.
It's expensive and embarrassing and
Yeah. No, you're exactly right.
stark,
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying. The question is, can it get done? I
Exactly.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I do. I think it's a great. It's worth a shot. I think we should really pursue it. And I think if we can there's an International Town Gown Association, and we've actually been a part of it over the years. And there's a opportunity to go to that conference in June. And I've been to the conference before, and it's really phenomenal to see the level of prevention at these conferences and the things that communities are doing. I mean, huge communities, different universities in Chicago, different universities. This one's at Clemson. So they highlight how Clemson got their town gown program going and the things they do and how they do it differently. And, CSU is a great role model for us because it's very similar in population and, and just being rural in that sense. And so it's another one of those things that's kind of like pie in the sky. How do we get it done? And how do we keep moving forward as a community? And we have a great community. I would just like to see us grow and do more when it comes to supporting each other.
Yeah, there's so much work to be done, and it's necessary, right? I mean, anybody who's read The Body Keeps the Score about the impacts of mental health on physical health, we're all in this game, and it's not just police or the hospital or you guys or whoever else. We all have a dog in that hunt for a healthier community. And so thanks for your work, Tracy. Anything before we leave?
I just want to give a shout out to both Bailey and Tracy. Working together, they've done a really good job of getting people back at the table and actually engaged, not just showing up, they're actually engaged, talking and learning what each other is doing out there. And I just want to point out that they should be acknowledged because they really have to.
Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Tracy.
Yeah.
Have a
Have a
great
good
evening.
evening.
You as well. All right. Moving to item 11. Discuss and set a work session for the 5th set. Jennifer, please.
Yes, as I mentioned when we were talking about changing it, we got a resolution from Rock River that doesn't delineate whether they wanted it to be on the ballot for just this election cycle or on a permanent basis, which then brought up the question with Bob of what the city wanted to do and what the council wanted to do. So we thought in lieu of signing a resolution now, it may be more efficient for everyone to have a quick work session to discuss putting it on the ballot as a permanent basis or just doing it on a 4-year cycle, if that's what the decision is from everyone.
Okay. Commissioners, any thoughts? Yeah. or I guess we would work with Jackie and their clerks and then give us, do you remember what day of the week that was? Was that a Wednesday or a Thursday night?
It was a Wednesday night the last time we met.
Yeah, we
Okay.
usually do Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Never do Thursdays.
Okay, so,
I'll coordinate
Okay.
with both Nancy and Andrea and see what I can schedule.
Just so that you remember I'm gone. and it's
Right,
so-
right.
okay. All right.
Is there any sort of implied deadline? I mean, you know, at some point we get a little thin in time to put something on the ballot. So
That's
one
it.
way or the other, so.
Yeah. July would be my requested drop dead date.
Oh,
So that
surely.
it doesn't go on the ballot until, on the November ballot, so.
Right. So surely we can,
Right.
we can get this done by the end of May or something.
Right, right. But because there's a, you know, get it out there, whatever decision we make and discuss it with the public and tell people what the 5% applies, not only at this
Yeah,
body, but at the city and in Rock River. So we have to be able to make that case. And so, yeah, the sooner the better. Thank you for doing that, Jackie. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jennifer, for bringing that to our attention. Here, we'll let somebody else in. All right, item 12, present for approval, second amendment to the agreement between the Board of County Commissioners of the County of Albany, Wyoming and Y2 Consultants LLC for creation of the Albany County Natural Resources Plan. David, good evening. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. What is being requested here is a second amendment to the contract with Y2 Consultants. This will extend the date or the term of the contract from May 31st to June 30th. So they can finish up the work that they're doing. After June 30th, our grant actually goes until June 30th. So anything after that, we would either have to pay out of our pocket or would just be done with you know, the work that we're doing with the consultant. But right now I feel like we're on track. We'll be bringing a draft for you that they've included your suggestions in at your May 3rd meeting to review to see if it's in a condition to send out the public comment. They have reached out to a number of organizations. The stakeholder group kind of came up with a list of folks to contact, and they've been contacting them. And we'll be meeting with federal agencies later. Oh, actually, this week I think we're going to be meeting with them. So we should be getting all the information from them. So hopefully we'll have a good draft for you guys to look at on the 3rd, and we can go forward and should be able to meet the deadlines if everything works out. So, but anyways, this is just to ask for that extension till June 30th with the contract.
Thank you, David. Commissioners, anything?
David, I just have a question. This doesn't have to go back to P and Z at all.
Correct.
All right. Anything else? David, thank you so much. Appreciate your work on this, and we'll look forward to seeing it on the 3rd.
Okay.
We have to approve the second amendment to the agreement.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion for that.
I move that we approve item 12 as presented.
second,
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
aye,
Aye, all those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 13, present for approval. Thank you, David. Subcontract award for high-intensity drug trafficking area funding between the Wyoming Division of Criminal Investigation, the Albany County Sheriff's Office from January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022 in the amount of $72,511. Sheriff Applehans, good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is our yearly contract with Rocky Mountain HIDA and DCI for one of my deputies to work on their high-intensity drug trafficking team. And as you can see there, they compensate us for salary and benefits of that employee.
Commissioners, any questions? Sheriff, what does working on the HIDA team entail? What is?
So it's high-intensity drug trafficking team. So any drug trafficking that we have coming through basically our area. And then also working with DCI to help with any other types of drug trafficking, drug investigations that they have in other areas. They utilize agents in different areas of the state, depending on their expertise on what they have. So we use that, having I-80 come through our corridor. That's it's a major highway for a lot of drug trafficking, drug smuggling as well. So we utilize the grant that we have from the Rocky Mountain HIDA division that comes out of Denver and funds that position where we can help out with those investigations.
Is that officer pulled away from your staff from time to time, or
Yes.
quite a bit?
Quite a bit. It basically is a full-time position with the Rocky Mountain HIDA division. They do help us on other investigations that we have. We share information. And we utilize both teams' resources. But even though that's my deputy, that deputy's working full-time for the team.
Okay, super. Commissioners, any questions? Entertain a motion for item 13, please.
I move that we approve item 13 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
You know, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I see, we're out on the roads a lot in our business. And great many times when highway patrol stops a vehicle and they start doing the drug search, the closest help is an Albany County Sheriff officer or vice versa. So a lot of times you see a sheriff deputy and a highway patrolman working together a lot. I mean, it could be 40 or 50% of the time when something, when it's an extended stop with that kind of stuff going on.
A lot of times when it's on the highway, it's outside of city limits. So you'll see highway patrol and sheriff's office working together with each other. So a team will come out as well, depending on the circumstances of the stop and the investigation.
All right, item 14. Present for approval, renewal of the memorandum of understanding between the Board of County Commissioners of the County of Albany, Wyoming, by and through the Albany County Sheriff's Office and the University of Wyoming Athletics Department for law enforcement services for the purpose of providing additional enforcement assistance to the University Police Department during the university's 2022-2023 football and men's basketball seasons at each scheduled game held at War Memorial Stadium and Urena Auditorium. Sheriff.
This is the same MOU that we signed last year. There's a clause in that MOU that says you can renew it as long as it's approved by both entities electronically, and that's all that we're asking this year is to renew the same MOU that we had for those extra law enforcement services for our big open air athletic events that we have at UW.
Commissioners, any questions?
Yeah, Sheriff, did the pay rate go up?
No, pay rate stays the same.
So I'm looking at section on your payment, 4.01, and which is it, $52 or $65 per hour?
It should be
Because it says at a maximum rate of $52 written out, and then in parentheses, it says $65.
should be at $65. I think when we did that MOU at the time last year, we were in flux in terms of what that rate is. So we communicated that to the University of Wyoming. We also have different deputies that work at different pay rates. So that's why you see a little bit of a wiggle room in there. Whatever deputy works, they can count.
Is there any reason for us to specify what the rate should be in the contract, or is that a typo, or?
The 52 sounds like a typo because I thought the first
Gotcha.
one that we had said 62 and a half to 65. So
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the renewal of the MOU between the Board of County Commissioners and by and through the Albany County Sheriff's Office and the University of Wyoming Athletics Department for law enforcement services for the 2022-2023 football and men's basketball seasons. And specified that it's 62.
It should be 62 and a half, not 65. 65 is the highest.
Gotcha. That it's billed at $62.50 to $65 an hour.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Wow, close reading by Commissioner Rivera. Yay.
I totally would.
Yeah. No further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, all those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you. And continue the evening with the sheriff here.
Fun to be here.
Present for approval, modification of grant or agreement in Exhibit A, cooperative law enforcement annual operating plan and financial plan between the Albany County Sheriff's Office and the USDA Forest Service Medicine Bow Root National Forest and Thunder Basin National Grassland 2022 annual operating and financial plan in the amount of $19,600. Sheriff, please.
This is annual grant MOU agreement that we have with the United States Forest Service that contracts us to patrol and provide patrolling services in the United States Forest Service that we have within the county. So Medicine Bow National Forest on basically both sides of Laramie and any grasslands that we have. So it's our standard agreement where it pays up to $19,600 reimbursing the sheriff's office for those patrols that we do in the forest.
Commissioners, any questions?
Is that 18,500?
No. Yeah, well, there is some that rolls over, but because it didn't get fully utilized, but every year the United States Forest Service never gives out more than the $19,600.
Entertain a motion, commissioners.
I move that we approve item 15 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, all those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 16, present for approval, replacement of patrol and car video systems by WatchGuard Video / Motorola Solutions in the amount of $114,300 to be paid for 2018 specific purpose tax funds. Sheriff, please.
So this is approval for large purchase to replace all of our in-car camera videos in our entire fleet. They're all quite outdated, unreliable, and are on an older system. Back in July, we were approved by y'all for a new storage system, and then we've just been waiting for WatchGuard to bring the new units that we can install in all of our fleet. So this is that second part where we'll complete brand new in-car camera video, bring us up to the speed to where technology is right now, and fulfill our storage needs that we have for that evidence that we collect with that video camera system. So.
Commissioners, any questions? Sure. Entertain a motion for 16 then.
I move that we approve item 16 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Sheriff, just one question. About how long is before these become outdated? Is it 3 to 4 years? Is it less?
Well, right now, this is the brand new model. Our last model lasted us quite a while, but we had to Band-Aid and duct tape a lot of things to get it working. So I think our last system lasted us about 7 or 8 years. Okay. All the new technology we've been doing within the sheriff's office, it's all based on the 4 to 5 year kind of contract. This one isn't a contract, this is just a purchase, but we expect that it's going to last us about 4 or 5 years before we have to start looking at either upgrading single units or upgrading the entire system.
Thank you. Seeing no more further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Item 17, award bid for the purchase and delivery of 3 full-size 4-door, 4-wheel drive sport utility vehicles with upgraded suspension / pursuit or police package specifications with the trade-in of 1 silver 2016 Chevrolet Tahoe and one black 2007 Ford Expedition, and one white 1983 Ford Sheriff.
1983. So yes, this is for, to award the bid. I believe it's Fremont Motors, in Fremont County, to trade in those 3 vehicles and provide us with 3 new vehicles as well. This is, the way we wrote this bid is that they came in as the lowest bid, and they're also gonna be able to deliver those vehicles within 120 to 180 days, which is what we specified in the bid, so.
Commissioners, any questions?
I think that's a Bronco, huh? That 83.
No, it's a van.
Oh, I thought maybe it was the OJ.
Very,
Simpson.
very old command van that they had way back in the day. We found it on our lot and it was no longer useful, so time for it to go.
Does it have a bubble window and carpet in it?
No, it's one of those vans
Yeah,
that had no windows in it. And so I don't think that's a good look for the sheriff's office. So we need to trade it in. So we thank
A paddy
Fremont,
wagon?
yeah, we thank Fremont Motors for taking that off.
All right, any other questions? I'd entertain a motion for 17, please.
I move that we approve item 17 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing that all is in favor, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Rob was probably excited to get it off the lot, or was it parked somewhere?
It was parked, not being utilized. It was our mobile command van, but the technology in there would have been very useful in 1996. So not so much these days.
All right, item 18. Present for approval contract for the purchase and delivery of 3 full-size 4-door, 4-wheel drive sport utility vehicles with upgraded suspension / pursuit or police badge package specifications with trade-in of 1 silver 2016 Chevrolet Tahoe, 1 black 2007 Ford Expedition, and 1 white 1983 Ford van.
This is just the contract.
Yeah.
Since the bid is ready.
Commissioners, any questions about the contract?
Well, we don't have a smoking break room for the employees that smoke. And we could have parked it in the parking lot. We could run out and sit in the van. And we should have kept it.
No.
Some nice little curtains to make it private.
Right, absolutely.
Again, I'm just happy that Fremont Motors took this one. That was the only thing I was worried about this bid.
You don't want to encourage smoking.
Yeah.
I move that we approve the contract for this purchase of 3 full-size vehicles.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing that all is in favor, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. That concludes the evening with the sheriff.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate everything.
Thanks,
Commissioner.
Sheriff
Hey,
Applin.
man, we could have kept it and painted it black with red pinstripes and, and hired Mr. T as
Yeah,
sheriff.
it could be turned into 18 van. I'm an 80s kid as much as I like that. I still don't think that's a good look for our sheriff's office.
All right, 19, present for approval agreement between the Albany County Board of Commissioners and the Volunteers of America Northern Rockies to provide mental health and first aid training through the prevention grant funds. Bailey, and it looks like Kristen might be joining us also. Kristen, good evening. Good evening, Bailey.
Good evening, sorry, we're gonna change. As Tracy mentioned earlier, we are planning on contracting with the Volunteers of America to put on 4 mental health first aid trainings by June 30th this year. The trainings will also provide booklets or money for the booklets that go with the program. I don't know if Kristen has anything to add at this point. But I'll turn it over to her if she does have anything.
Thanks, Bailey. Good evening, commissioners and chair. Yes, we're very excited about this opportunity. This is an opportunity in particular that I've been working on. Sheriff Appelhans and Chief Stalder have been very patient with me for a solid 18 months, if not more, and me trying to get this training done. And there are several steps to be able to provide the public safety training. We're hoping that to provide 3 to 4 trainings by the end of June. I say 3 to 4 because I'm trying to be realistic about trying to schedule all 4 of them in. Hopefully we can make that happen. 3 of the trainings in particular, I am geared at them being for public safety. And so being able to have LPD there and the Sheriff's Department and UW Police and anyone else who is welcome to join for those public safety trainings to help support our community with this. This has been a part of ongoing conversations for a couple of years now that I've had with Chief Stalder. And I had the opportunity back in January to help with co-training for part of the CIT training. And so this training with mental health first aid will really help supplement and complement that training really well for our officers within our county. We're also then looking for one of the other trainings to be a youth training to host in our county here in Laramie to help support too. And then I look forward to working with Tracy as we move forward and being able to do additional trainings in the upcoming fiscal year. And I'd certainly take any questions.
Thank you, Kristen. Commissioners, any questions? How many people for each one of these trainings? Do I remember up to 40? Is that, or am I remembering something completely different?
Up to 30 in each training.
Up to 30, okay.
Yes, and I also want to note too, we're working with UW on this as well. UW has funding for mental health first aid. And so I'm working conjointly with them as well and hosting these trainings and future ones as well.
And I guess Kristen and Bailey might not be able to answer this, but is there some hope that people that pass this one can become trainers, or will everybody who passes this course become a trainer in mental health first aid, or is that how that works or not?
To my knowledge, there's specific train the trainer trainings, but I could be wrong, Kristen.
This is just to train them to be certified. So this is a day-long class. There's 2 hours of pre-work that are connected with it. And then 5.5 hours of direct coursework. It takes a little bit longer for us to get through it in a day. In terms of the 5.5 hours, it's more like 6 or a little more when you add in breaks, but that will leave them with a once they complete the online piece of there's a quiz afterwards, they'll be certified, but not as a trainer. That is the piece that the state is providing funding for. And that's about $1,800 online to go through that training, $1,800 to $2,000. And that's a 3-day training.
Thank you.
A lot of the, from what I've been noticing doing budget prevention, there's the trainer, and then there's the actual training itself. So they're 2 different things normally from what I've been seeing.
Thank you, Bailey. And commissioners, the changes are just a few on the front page of the contract that's on your desk. So it's highlighted. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yes.
Commissioners, any questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion for 19.
I have one question, and that is, who is this? So if we're doing 3 trainings and there's 30 slots per training, to me, that means that there are 90 people in our community that could get this training. Who is prioritized? What, as far as, will all those spots be used?
I'm going to defer to Kristen on that one.
Yeah, so Kristen, will all those spots be, all those opportunities be, exercised? And who is the target group of people in our community that we want to draw to this training?
We can certainly take up to 30 and market it that way so that market to everyone. Priority would be to the Sheriff's Department, UW Police, and LPD, because they've been the ones patiently waiting for us to be able to get this up and running. And that's why I'm looking towards having 3 of the trainings to be able to get them in and rotating groups of people based on their scheduling to get them in. I've been working with Paul regarding that. And then certainly anybody else who's wanting to attend, this will be geared towards public safety for those 3 trainings. So anyone else that's open and interested in that in the community, for example, Claire White from UW is interested in attending, and certainly anyone else from criminal justice or who's looking for that public safety would be welcome to attend.
So it's oriented towards law enforcement. Anybody, do people who are in education, they're dealing with a pretty large population, like somebody, high school counselors or something. I guess I don't understand maybe.
So there's different types of the mental health first aid training. There's a general adult training that is available. The targeted focus on the public safety is because we've been trying to provide this for about 18 months now to our county, and it's been ongoing conversations that we have had regarding this. So that training just has a more geared focus towards public safety, not to say that it wouldn't be helpful to the general public. There's also, as I mentioned, the youth training that would be geared more towards, I would send school counselors and school personnel to that youth training, or anyone who's working with youth. So all of them can be beneficial to anyone in general. It's just more of a targeted focus for certain audiences.
Sure, makes sense. Law enforcement is the entry point. Generally, that's the first place where you find somebody. But usually is in a law enforcement interaction, as unfortunate as that is.
Kristen, will you guys be sending it out to the Laramie Fire Department too as EMTs? I imagine they might run into a need for this work too if there's extra spots.
Yes, I believe that is on. Paul and I've been coordinating on that with LPD, and I believe he's going to be blasting it out to everyone once we have dates set.
Super. Any other questions? I'd entertain a motion for 19, please.
I move that we approve this amended contract between the Board of Commissioners of the County of Wyoming and Volunteers for America for the provision of 4 mental health first aid trainings.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you, Bailey. Thank you, Kristen. Appreciate it.
Thank you, commissioners. I appreciate it as well.
All right, item 20, present for approval grant application to Wyoming Department of Family Services for the 10th CPI grant application starting October 1st, 2022 through September 30th, 2023. Bailey, thank you.
This is our annual TANF application. We had 4 entities that put in an application: Big Brothers, Klein, Cathedral Home, and Interfaith. Our total application is for $110,475.20. In this application, I did put in a just over $2,000 administration fee, just because it does take my office some work to do this. But the totals that everybody put in was Big Brothers was $19,636.59. Klein, Wyoming was $35,370. Cathedral Home was $14,580, and Interfaith is $38,880. One of the things I do want you to be aware of this year, TANF has said they were not going to pay for rent for participants, which did make Interfaith change their application. That is something that they usually always put in for, and they weren't allowed to put in for that this year, primarily because the state has the ERAP funds at this time. So he did change some things that it is still for housing stability, but everything else is very similar to what we've seen year after year.
If there's any questions for Bailey. Can I entertain a motion for item 20 then, please?
I move that we approve item 20 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you. And $2,000 on 110 is a pretty reasonable administration fee.
Yeah, and chances are we are going to be cut on this, so I'll be back in front of you probably in May. So
How nice.
For the
I
annual
know.
camp, tutor games.
Do we, separate from that, do we try to include administration charges for, whenever we can or whenever a grant allows?
I have tried. You guys have cut me sometimes, but I do try to. Most grants allow me to do up to 10%. But from what I have gathered from you all and past experiences, you guys like to fund the programs, which I support. But I do think that the county needs to start taking their share too. Prevention actually has a 10% indirect cost, and Tracy and I are working on the budget, but 10% of that's $40,000. And that's $40,000 that can't go to a program. So it is a balancing act. And I mean, it does take we didn't write, I copy and pasted this application. That's how this application works. But I was telling Kayla, it took me 2.5 days to copy and paste it.
Right.
And then every report we have to do for it. So, and I even talked to the state on this one, because actually all of our nonprofits put in the max 10% administration fee as well. So that left nothing for us. So I talked to the state and she said, no, Bailey, you put your administration fee and you cut them. I was like, okay. So
Yes.
she was wanting us to do more, and I was like, I'll go 2% at this point. But like I said, I'll be back in front of you, and if we want to up that once we get our final amount or allocation, we can certainly do that. But I do try to, but I do know that you guys like to fund the programs more. So we put more money towards the programs as much as we can.
Well, probably during budget, I mean, this isn't on the agenda, so I keep it quick, but I think that, now she has Brady. As we increase the workload in the grants department, we try so hard to send all of the money where it's supposed to go that, there's a limit to how big of a grants load we can carry, right? So we see the value that they bring to our community, but we could get in a position where we're the grants administrator and we can't, we lock up, right? So to me, I think we need the administration fee because we're probably going to have to get you another helper besides Brady. I mean, I can see that coming, or even part-time in the future. And do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and for the record, any administration fee indirect cost, that does not go to my office, that goes into the general fund. Me and Brady are paid out of the general fund. Part of the reason for that, and I've argued it with some previous employees, our time is in kind for quite a few grants. And if we accept federal funding to pay our salaries, we can't be in kind. So it just goes right into the general fund. But any chance we can, I would like to apply for. Every chance I do get, I apply for it. And then it always comes back, well, you guys were cut down to this, so we're not gonna fund it this year. We're gonna pass it all out. So, but that is your call at the end.
Yeah, and so my point is it comes into the general fund, but then that's more funds available to turn around and support those grants, right? Than the grant administration. So I don't know where we lock up, but we could get there.
But so then you did cut the administrative off of each of these?
We did cut them just like 2%, and I have informed everybody that's what we did. Again, like I said, this was the first time they'd actually all asked for the max 10% administration fee. So I wasn't expecting that. So in the future, I'll tell them, nope, you can only ask for a certain percentage to make sure we include ours. But I'd never had that problem before, so it didn't cross my mind, but it will in the future.
Thank you, Bailey.
Yep.
Item 21 was pulled from the agenda, and item 22, present for discussion, the use of Medicaid pricing, $754 per day for renewal agreement with the Ivanson Memorial Hospital for services pursuant to Wyoming State Statute 25-10-101 through 25-10-257, rather than the current Medicare pricing, $1,355 a day, and authorize the county's attorney's office to begin renewal negotiations with Ivanson Memorial Hospital regarding the same. Jennifer, thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. So I put this as a discussion item on your agenda. This spring, we got from WBI contract, a draft of which is attached in your packet. WBI charges all the counties in the state when they house patients at WBI and Casper the Medicaid rate of $754 a day. Also included in your packet is the current contract with IMH, in which we pay $1,355 per day, which is the Medicare rate. So shortly after this WBI contract came out, we were on a county attorneys, the civil county attorneys have a call every month and they were discussing the WBI contract, and I said, the Medicaid rate is that, I said, that's lower than what we're paying our hospital, and consensus generally across the board with the other county attorneys was they only reimburse at the Medicaid rate to their hospitals. Crook County has gone so far as to put a resolution in place from their county commissioners saying for any services that the county commissioners are statutorily obligated for at the hospital, they're only reimbursing at Medicaid rate. So before I just went ahead with changing that rate in these upcoming negotiations with the hospital, I wanted to run it by you all first and get an idea of what your thoughts are. That saves us, the difference is $601 per day. We are obligated to pay at most 5 days. It's Saturday and Sunday. So we're obligated to pay 72 hours, which excludes Saturday, Sunday, and any holidays. So the most we ever end up paying is 5 days.
So it's up to 5 days.
Up to 5 days. Anywhere between 3 and 5. Usually if we get to 3 days, or up to that 5 days, if we have a 109 hearing, they're usually at the max number of those days. We have to do that within the 72 hours or exclusive of holidays and weekends. So, and in that negotiation also, and I have not yet talked to Sheriff, he's still on here, but at $600 a day, transportation costs, if we have an agreement in place with WBI and the sheriff, if we're transporting people, it takes people out of his rotation to be able to do that. It also takes people out of his rotation to have people sitting in the emergency room at the hospital until BHS here can admit them sometimes. So I haven't yet talked to you, Sheriff, but if it were that we wanted to negotiate towards that, or to use the Medicaid rate, if there's an issue with the hospital, for some of these cases, it's possible we could, with this contract that we would finalize with WBI, still be money ahead as a county, even if we, from our Title 25 funds, reimburse the sheriff for transportation to Casper. So.
Gotcha.
Commissioners, any questions?
Well, my thoughts on the subject are, we have very limited Title 25 budget, and we have to stretch it as far as we can. We have to. So no protest for me.
For you, Medicare is a full federal program, and of course Medicaid is a 50-50 federal state program. And so seems like that's a pretty reasonable place to start. Thank you,
Okay.
Jennifer.
Thank you.
23, present for concurrence, City of Laramie, Wyoming Resolution 2022-21, resolution appointing one member to the Environmental Advisory Committee and the City of Laramie, Wyoming. Commissioners, so Harry, Lendl had to resign because he moved out of town. He moved to Minnesota, I guess, and so it made it tough to make the meetings and wasn't an elector here anymore. So he wasn't qualified. So then Aaron and I did the interviews, and Caleb Matlock was selected to replace Harry's the rest of his term. And so I think it expires November 6th of 2023. So another year and a half of that.
And how long are these terms?
Boy, are they 3?
3 years.
I think they're 3. Yeah.
So we have, I don't have any issue with appointing, with the appointment. My question would be a process issue, and that is, like we have the airport board, the EAC, there's a few things that commissioners and the city send or make appointments to. And so I don't ever remember it being done where a city council representative and the chair of the commission meet to do those interviews and make the appointments. To me, I always thought that the county that we interviewed and made our portion of appointments, and the concurrence came from the city and vice versa, you know, when they make theirs. So I'm just curious how it's supposed to go, because I've never seen it done quite like this.
So we held it out for people to have re-advertised for people to, and then Councilor Doherty is the city's liaison and I am the county's liaison. And so I don't act as the chair, I just act as liaison.
No, I mean the chair of this board, you know, did you understand what I was saying?
No,
Well, in boards where the city makes appointments, some portion, some number of seats, and some are made by the county. Generally, the Board of Commissioners would interview our appointees, and then we would ask for concurrence on the city side, and vice versa. Does that make sense? In other words, county appointees, Jackie knows what I'm saying. Can you help me?
He's just saying that like we do for the.
Like we do for the airport.
Yeah.
Right. So what you're basically saying is there is the liaisons on each board representing the city and the county that get together. In this case, got together and interviewed candidates. And because it was a city appointment initially of a person who resigned, the city is replacing that person and the county is just concurring with that replacement.
So in this case, the city actually did us a courtesy by including you in the interviews when they don't really have to.
Yeah.
Right. They could just do that over there and send it over for concurrence from us. So essentially the process hasn't changed, except that I understand.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You're on the right track.
and the reverse is true too. So we have, since I've been on that board, always invited the city council when it's our appointment to help us interview those people. And then we'll bring those appointments to this board and then send it over to the city for the concurrence.
Yeah. So I guess not having seen what happened on the city side, somehow I didn't understand the nature of your involvement. Does that make sense? I like it. Anyway.
Yeah.
it's a big, I apologize.
No worries at all. I'd entertain a motion for that. 23, excuse me.
Okay, I move that we approve the concurrence of this member. Sorry, name is,
Matlock.
okay. Yeah, and to sit on the, to be a member of the Environmental Advisory Committee.
Second.
Moving second, any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
And my apologies to Kayla Matlock for saying this person.
Yeah. Item 24, present for approval, letter of support for the Southeast Laramie acquisition LWCF fiscal year 2024 core proposal. And commissioners, it looks like. Who were you on?
This came through to me, and I forwarded on to you and Jackie to just get it on letterhead and all this to so our support of this acquisition.
And it's to unlock some locked acreage and consolidate a ranch. That's how I understand it. Or is it to purchase a ranch that helps unlock the checkerboard of the plans? Remember, I had a hard time understanding the map a little bit. I didn't know what the black line represented.
Well, Leah Burgess is on
Leah?
there, and she'll be able to explain it to us.
All right, Leah, please.
Good evening, commissioners. Trying to get my hand down there. I'm not sure if you can see that. Lower hand. Yes, thank you for entertaining this request for a letter of support. we've been working on this acquisition of Mule Creek Ranch, which is in the northern portion of Albany County, for a number of years. It is being proposed as a land exchange, which your commission would have received some notices over the past few years about the land exchange. This Land and Water Conservation Fund proposal for funding is as a backup to the land exchange if some or all of the components of that don't go through. And exchanges are quite complex. Multiple landowners are involved. And so we're just trying to ensure that the ranch is acquired. It is an acquisition for conservation and public access. And yes, it would, once acquired, it would connect about 38,000 acres of contiguous BLM and state land.
Thank you, Leah. Any questions? Leah, is this also being worked by the BLM and the state working together for the acquisition, or how is that all going? Is the state taking the lead?
Yeah, so in this acquisition, BLM is the lead agency since we're requesting land and water conservation funds. Game and Fish has been heavily involved. We've partnered with them and the current owners of Mule Creek Ranch on a public access area. So they've participated in that walk-in program for a number of years now, I think 7 years. So Game and Fish has also completed many habitat improvement projects out there with funding assistance from RMEF and other NGOs and BLM. So it's been a partnership effort for a number of years. The Conservation Fund is involved with the land exchange as well. And so we're just all putting all of our resources into making sure this acquisition happens.
Then just one follow-up, thank you. Do you expect that to happen this year, hopefully, or maybe next year since it's fiscal 24 funding?
So with the fiscal year 24 funding, it would be available late in 24. So we would anticipate a 2 years from now that we would, yes, be able to close.
Thank you, Leah. That's all the questions I have. Commissioners, I entertain a motion for 24 if there's no more questions.
I move that we approve the letter of support for the Southeast Wyoming Association acquisition, Land Water Conservation Fund, fiscal year 2024 core proposal.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thanks, Leah. I appreciate your background on that. It was really helpful.
Well, thank you all so much.
Have a nice night.
Thanks, Leah.
Thank you.
Item 25, approve payroll and vouchers for April 2022. Commissioners.
I move that we approve the payroll and vouchers for April 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Does anybody need a break before executive session? Okay. Item 26, executive session pursuant to Wyoming State Statute 16-4-405A. What's the ICE? Is it
I-7.
I-7? I entertain a motion for the executive session, please.
I move that we exit regular session and enter into executive session pursuant to Wyoming statute 16-4-405A7.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Leaving regular session, entering executive session at 7:23. We'll shut down the